Nova Guinea is the name given by the first Western explorer early 16th century to a then unknown island in the South Pacific Ocean. The island has all the characteristics of a paradise. The flora and fauna is unique. It has paradisiacal beaches with palm trees and impenetrable jungles. We begin the history of New Guinea in the 16th century. In this century, Portugal was the center of a global trade network. She made many voyages of discovery also around the Indian Ocean. The spice trade was her biggest source of income, which made her prosperous and influential. The conquest of the port of Malacca in 1511 from the Muslims enabled the Portuguese to gain a foothold in the Southeast Asian spice trade. By the end of the 16th century, Portuguese dominance in Asia waned due to competition from the English and Dutch in the region. When the first European traders arrived in 1512 in the form of Antonio de Abreu and the Portuguese, their presence initially caused little disruption to existing trading relations. In the year 1511, Portuguese naval officer Antonio de Abreu and his sub-commander Francisco Serrao discovered the island of New Guinea and mapped its northern coast. They never set foot on the island. Abreu was part of a fleet of ships that sailed from India to the Moluccas, a group of islands in the eastern part of the Indonesian archipelago. During the voyage, Abreu and his crew actually discovered New Guinea by accident. Abreu's destination was the Moluccas archipelago, but strong winds and currents caused him to drift toward New Guinea. They never set foot on the island. 15 years later, in 1526, the first foreigner set foot on New Guinea. It was the Portuguese explorer Jorge de Menezes, governor of the Moluccan island of Ternate. He went ashore at Warsai, in the North Bird's Head. Jorge de Menezes was a Portuguese explorer. Due to a monsoon, he was forced to reside in Waisai between 1526 and 1527. Menezes called the region Ilhas Dos Papuas, though the name of Papua was already known at the time. Yet he was still the first European to go ashore and thus credited with the European discovery of New Guinea. Menezes and his crew were very tense, curious and nervous before going ashore, for they did not know what to expect. After Jorge cast anchor, he and his crew went ashore and met the people of the island. When he arrived on the island lying off the coast of Papua, he had to winter there for 1 year. That is to say, to wait for the periodical change of the monsoon. After the initial discovery of New Guinea by Jorge de Menezes, many other European explorers visited the island. Two years later, on June 14, 1528, the Spanish navigator Álvaro de Saavedra, who set sail from Moluccas to New Spain, today's Mexico, saw from his ship the Schouten Islands and the island of Yapen near Bayac. He went ashore here. On May 3, 1529, Álvaro de Saavedra tried again the second time by navigating back down south. Again he toured the western part of New Guinea getting to Manus. In 1545 another sighting was later reported by the Spanish navigator Íñigo Ortiz de Redes aboard the galleon San Juan when he was also attempting to return from New Spain, present-day Mexico. This part of New Guinea had been visited for the first time by a foreign navigator. Ortiz de Redes came here by chance and did not know where he actually had landed. So he had given the island a name. He coasts northern New Guinea as far as the Mamberamo River, near which he lands, and finding its people physically similar to those of West Africa's Guinea coast, names the island Nueva Guinea, claiming it for the Spanish crown. Ortiz de Redes sent an expedition into the jungle to see if there was anything of value such as gold or other precious minerals. He found the jungle impenetrable, very swampy, and went back to his ship. There was nothing commercially of interest to him and left the area. He continued his journey to Malacca and continued to sail close to the island's coast. He eventually reached the island of Bayac where he anchored. The Bayac archipelago was first mapped in the Portuguese outlines of Gaspar Vigas in 1537 and later enhanced by João de Lisboa in 1560. The rainforest-covered Bayac Islands have been designated the Bayac Numfor rainforests, especially as they have the largest number of endemic bird species of any single area in the New Guinea region. There are also numerous reptile and amphibian species found here. Lisboa was the first European who mapped Biak. He stayed on the island for 2 years. While Spain and Portugal monopolized the spice trade in Asia in the 16th century, the Netherlands did not yet exist as it does today. They had never heard of New Guinea. The Netherlands used to consist of 7 provinces. In the second half of the 16th century, it waged a war with Spain that lasted 80 years from 1568 to 1648. To expel the Spaniards, the Republic of the Seven Netherlands was proclaimed in 1588. The Republic of the Seven United Netherlands was also called the Republic. Because at that time the Republic did not yet have its own ties to Asia. Its spices were imported from Portugal, which had the monopoly on the spice trade. Because during this period Portugal was an ally of Spain, Spain ended the specie trade between the Republic and Portugal. So now the Republic had to get its own spices from Asia. This was done by small independent shipping companies. The Republic sent a trial expedition of 4 ships, and after the return of 3 ships this was a success for the Republic. The independent shipping companies being given the opportunity to import their own spices, including nutmeg and pepper, from Asia led to much competition between the so-called pre-companies, which are enterprises that equip ships for an expedition. In 1602, the Republic united the small shipping companies and established a large and strong trading company under the name Verenigd Oost-Indisch Company, also known as the VOC, to take on the Spanish and Portuguese. The VOC was equipped with a combination of military, economic and diplomatic means. 65 ships were built and sent out to the East Indies, accompanied for protection by corvettes, for once in Indian waters they were attacked by the Portuguese. One of these corvettes bore the name Triton. Remember this name because this corvette will play an important role in the history of New Guinea. The purpose of the VOC is to encourage voyages of discovery in hopes of faster connections, new trade contacts and products, language research, with the intention of bringing the Christian faith to the attention of the local population. The VOC had established a successful route for the trade in spices that made it now independent from Portugal. Much of the VOC's merchandise consisted of spices such as nutmeg, pepper, cinnamon, cloves and mace. From China came silk and porcelain. During its existence, the VOC faced many wars. It had to fight a lot of battles to finally gain a monopoly on the spice trade with Asia in 1660. The VOC under Jan Pieterszoon Cohen had established itself as a dominant trading power within Asia during those years and proved well suited to pirates, the Portuguese, Spanish and English fleets. The VOC successfully fought their monopoly on the spice trade around the Moluccan Islands. The VOC suffered the most from the Fourth Anglo-Dutch War. During 1780 and 1784, the English took several trading posts and hijacked full trading ships. The VOC was the most powerful and richest company in the world at that time. Its fleet had the most ships and it won almost all naval battles. That fact gave her the monopoly on the spice trade. The VOC voyages were not without risks and dangers. A single voyage took 8 months and diseases often broke out on the ships due to lack of fresh food, and once they passed Africa they ran the risk of being attacked by the Portuguese. Even before the VOC was founded, the Dutch Republic sent a delegate on an expedition to Ceylon in 1602. Its task was to see if trade in cinnamon was possible. He went to the east coast and came into contact with the leader of the Kingdom of Kandy. This one was sympathetic to him and even learned Dutch. Still, the company did not get enough cinnamon to trade. However, the expedition was still successful, because the VOC, founded in 1602, found the reporting interesting enough to try to settle on the island. In those days, Indonesia did not exist as we know it today. It was a collection of large and small islands that traded separately with the VOC. They were basically small independent kingdoms with a sultan as leader. They were also called sultanates. These sultanates were very rich and powerful, and there was often much fighting among themselves because of the spice trade. The competing European countries stood by the islands militarily. The company was from the beginning very successful. In 1605 the VOC captured the islands Ambon and Tidore and drove the Portuguese from the Moluccas, and in 1619 Batavia was founded. One of the sultanates was Tidore. An expedition by the Sultan of Tidore, together with Samardin, the Sengaji of Patani, and the Papuan Gurabisi, managed to conquer some areas in New Guinea, which was then reorganized to form Karano Ngaroha, 4 kings, or Raja Ampat. The VOC was supreme and the Portuguese lost their monopoly in Southeast Asia after a fierce naval battle. The Portuguese and Spanish sailors who had discovered New Guinea knew that Christopher Columbus came back with a lot of gold after his expedition and thought that New Guinea would have it too. So they told this to the Sultan of Tidore, and the rumor spread further. The rumor spread quickly and soon New Guinea was known as the Island of Gold, which is why, once the VOC had a foothold in the East Indies, it sent an expedition to Nova Guinea or New Guinea in 1606. A VOC yacht under command of skipper Willem Cornelis, Schouten and chief merchant Klaas Geff were sent to Ceram to obtain further information. However, one knew very little about New Guinea and there was no other option than to go and see for themselves. That would happen some years later. We have come to the end of this episode and I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, I will keep you updated on my new productions. I'll see you back in the next episode, Protectors of the Unknown.